10 seconds, that's genuinely all it took. 10 seconds of a hot mic, one careless sentence, and suddenly, a major American network was in full damage control mode. A suspension was handed down before lunch, and the name Eala was trending on every platform you can think of. But here's what I want you to sit with before we get into all of it. Was this just a slip of the tongue? A bad moment caught at the worst possible time? Or did that microphone just tell us exactly what some people in sports media actually think and have always thought? Let's get into it. Before we do, quick pause. If Alexa's story makes you want to dream bigger, hit that like button. Drop top 5 in the comments if you believe she's going to crack the WTA's upper echelon. And if you're Filipino and you're proud of what she represents, leave a heart. Let's make some noise. All right, back to it. This wasn't about a bad match. Nobody missed a shot. There was no embarrassing collapse on the court. What happened was far simpler and honestly far uglier than any sporting failure. A seasoned ABC anchor was wrapping up a segment on Alexa's recent surge up the rankings. The segment ended. The cameras didn't. She leaned toward a colleague, smiled like she was sharing a perfectly normal thought, and said it. She's not actually that good. The only reason anyone cares is because she's Filipino. That was it. Handful of words, maybe 5 seconds of audio, and someone in that studio heard it, clipped it, posted it. By nightfall, it was everywhere. X, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, sports podcasts. The clip was inescapable. And what struck people wasn't just the dismissiveness. It was the ease of it, the confidence, like it wasn't even worth lowering her voice for. Let's actually talk about who Eala is, because that comment deserves to be dismantled with facts. She's 20 years old. She's a junior Grand Slam champion. She has stepped onto courts against veterans with decades of experience on her and held her own. She has carried the Philippine flag into spaces where almost no one from her country has ever competed at that level. None of that happened because of where she was born. It happened because of 4 a.m. alarms and sessions that run until her legs give out. It happened because of losses that didn't break her, they built her. It happened because of a discipline most people her age can't even imagine sustaining. When you look at her record and see only her passport, that's not analysis. That's dismissal dressed up to look like one. And the fans, they felt that immediately. The response came fast and hard. Hashtags flooded the algorithm. Protect Alexa. Boycott ABC. Filipino communities around the world weren't just rallying behind a tennis player, they were protecting something deeper than that. Here's the thing people outside the Philippines sometimes don't fully grasp. Tennis isn't the national sport there. Boxing has the history. Basketball has the culture. So when someone from the Philippines reaches the door of the world's elite tennis circuit, that means something profound. It tells every kid watching that the door isn't closed to them, that the world stage isn't just for people who were born into the right zip code. When a prominent American anchor waves all of that away as just hype. That lands differently, that cuts. ABC's executives were in crisis mode by the next morning. A statement came out, the kind of corporate non-apology that uses a lot of words to say very little. This comment does not reflect our organization's values. The anchor was suspended pending an internal review. Suspended, just like that. That's what happens when the backlash moves faster than the damage control. Sponsors were reportedly making calls. Media critics were already pulling back the curtain on bias in sports coverage. Internet investigators started digging, and what they found made the whole thing feel less like an isolated accident. Old clips, subtle smirks when underdogs won, a tone of barely concealed disbelief reserved for athletes from certain places. Whether it was a pattern or a coincidence, the court of public opinion had already made up its mind. Now here's the moment in this story that I keep coming back to. While all of this was exploding, while the clip was being shared millions of times and the network was scrambling, Eala posted a workout photo. No statement, no clapback, no emotional Instagram caption, just sweat, a racket, and the court. I play, you talk. She didn't say those words, but she didn't have to. That silence was the loudest possible response. The more chaotic the noise got online, the more powerful that image became. She was already in the next session, while people were still arguing about her on the internet. Fans noticed, and that calm, focused image became its own kind of rallying cry. Now let's talk about the bitter irony at the center of all this. The anchor's whole point was that Alexa's nationality was the only reason for the hype. Okay, then explain the wins. Explain the rankings trajectory. Explain the rallies where she outlasted seasoned professionals. Nationality doesn't win match points. Skill does. Grit does. Years of relentless grinding preparation does. And in trying to make her smaller, that anchor accidentally made her enormous. Millions of people who had never heard of Alexa Eala before that moment suddenly knew her name. Her highlight reels started racking up views. Old interviews resurfaced. One clip in particular, quiet, understated, just her saying, "I play because I love the game," went viral all over again. Fans set it to slow-motion footage of her forehands. It became a symbol. The attack didn't damage her legacy. It launched it to a whole new audience. Zoom out for a second. This kind of skepticism, this quiet condescension toward athletes from smaller countries, isn't rare. We call them flukes. We frame their breakthroughs as surprises. We treat them like guests at a table they weren't invited to. And then when they keep winning, we scramble to update the narrative. Alexa Eala doesn't need anyone's charity headline. She's not a heartwarming story. She is a competitor. And what rivals actually want from her isn't publicity, it's respect. The suspension sent one message loud and clear. There is a real cost to contempt. Reputation matters. Sponsors matter. Viewers matter. The audience holds more power than most networks want to admit, and this week that power showed up. But here's the question that actually matters going forward. Does anything change? Do sports broadcasters start thinking more carefully before they open their mouths? Or does this fade out the moment the next controversy rolls in? That answer is partly on the audience. You showed this week that your voice carries weight. The real question is whether that weight gets used consistently, not just when a clip goes viral. Picture this. A few years from now, Alexa Eala is holding a Grand Slam trophy. The cameras are everywhere. And somewhere in the broadcast booth, someone pulls up that clip. The hot mic moment, the dismissal, the contempt, right next to the image of her with the silverware. The silence after that would be deafening. Sports history is full of those moments. Doubt, then dominance. The anchor probably felt the regret the instant that suspension email arrived. But if Alexa keeps climbing, and everything we've seen suggests she will, that moment becomes part of her origin story permanently. Every milestone she reaches brings that clip back into the light. Every trophy makes the dismissal more absurd in retrospect. There's a reason athletes remember who doubted them. They use it, it becomes fuel. The kind that burns clean and long. Her journey is nowhere near finished. She's 20. She's evolving in real time. She's still learning what her ceiling is, and honestly, so is everyone else. But she's already made history for her country just by being where she is. One thing isn't up for debate. Her fame isn't manufactured. It wasn't handed to her. It was built in training rooms, on practice courts, in early mornings nobody else saw. The hard way, the only way that actually holds. The suspension might be temporary, but the lesson is permanent. Words carry weight. Tone reveals truth. And in the world we live in now, where a microphone is always closer than you think, 10 seconds is more than enough time to change everything. I want to know what you think. Was suspension the right call, or should there have been more accountability than that? And do you believe Alexa Eala is going to make the top 5 and prove every single doubter wrong on the biggest stage in the world? Tell me in the comments, because this story is nowhere close to over. Alexa's career is just getting started. And if this week taught us anything, it's this: underestimating her, that's the worst bet you could possibly make.